I'll let you draw any conclusion you want to. Basically, so the processor is a TI OMAP 1710. You may see a lot of these processors if you're a hardware person in a lot of cell phones and a lot of other communication devices. What they're running on that OMAP 10 is a Linux 2.6 based kernel and system based on BusyBox. That's why it got very interesting for me when I saw the DHCP request. Yeah. They got two Samsung SBM 1320s of the radio controllers, two MXFE 9861. You guys really, who actually cares about the hardware? Sweet, I'll keep going through it. So the GPS is a serial-based GPS by Trimble. There's an FPGA on the board. We weren't able to figure out exactly what it does, but based on documentation from various femtocell providers, it looks like it either does timing calculations or encryption. Ooh, that gives me an idea. The network's a Realtek network adapter, and there's an HDMI interface on the bottom. No, it does not hook up to your TV. We asked Best Buy if my TV was femtocell capable. They said no. But there's other fun stuff with it. This is Vendor A's product. I'll let Jack talk about Vendor A since he's the one who did a lot of the work tearing them apart.
Sit down.
Yes, sir.
All right. So Vendor A was a lot of fun, but it's a Pico chip inside using another serial-based GPS unit by Realtek. It's also FPGA. Again, we don't know if it's doing the encryption or timing-based stuff. Realtek network adapter, and then the interesting thing on there was the pin headers on the boards. After a night in a hotel, we were able to get serial off of that pretty well. We'll touch on that in a moment, I think. Although the nice thing about Vendor A is that they actually had some tamper detection jumpers on the board, so that when you cracked open the case, if you weren't careful, you would have most likely wiped the entire device. Unfortunately for them, they didn't know that Lost Mystery Challenge contestants were going to be opening up their hardware. And if any of you are familiar with Lost Mystery Challenge, you know what I'm talking about. All right, security considerations by Zach.
That was fun. So here, in femtocells, there's really three major areas that, as an attacker, you're going to be looking at. You're going to be looking at the network connection, either on the LAN or the WAN side. You're looking at the femtocell itself, and you're going to be looking at the MSs, the mobile stations or devices. Or can I just call them cell phones from here on in? Cool.
No.
So there's 4 risks I could easily think of, other than Bill Gates. First of all, theft of service. If these aren't properly secured, you could easily get free service from vendor A or vendor Trogdor. Privacy-wise, if it's a GSM-based one, you could turn into easily an IMSI catcher. For those who don't know what an IMSI catcher is, if you notice, I'm just handing out, again, go to the take the GSM seriously, CD if you're interested, or DVD. Hey, you know, you're passing me your IMSI saying, I want to join your network, I want to join your network, I want to join your network. Well, IMSIs are unique to each person. No, it's not your cell phone number, it's a unique identifier, excuse me, on top of that. So you can set up basically triangulation of IMSIs and figure out where people are and track them based on that. That would be interesting if we could get one to do that. You could also use the device outside of its legal limits, aka forging GPS information to go somewhere else, such as Mexico, and get nice cellular service from back in the States in Mexico. You could also potentially, again, we'll touch on this intercept data part, but if a femtocell was compromised and the encryption was being done on the femtocell and knew the keys of the phones, you could intercept data potentially. So the good, there's always good things to talk about other than Chipotle. They took and on these devices, they're all VPN tunneled across the LAN. So there's a lot of good security in that. They're using a site-to-site pre-shared key and or certificate, depending on the vendor, VPN tunneling. So sniffing the traffic's not going to get you much other than a DHCP request and the handshake for the VPN. The hardware tamper pins that Jacko was talking about, I mean, it's a step. The firewall policies on the devices are really hardened, and it's also kind of in combination with the VPN tunneling. The way the routes are set up is that nothing on the network can talk to it because it's not going to route back. All the routes are defaulted out, except for the gateway. So if you get the gateway, you can talk to the devices still and get by the firewall. But there's not much, in the way of services running on them. We'll touch on what we did find on the services running on them. And on one of the devices, we noticed they were using SSH tunnels or Stunnels, the SSL version of it, to connect to the services on the back end of house. So now the part everyone who actually came here
There's
to
a
see.
question.
Do they validate certificates?
We did not test the validation of secure certificates and any SSL, TLS vulnerabilities against those certificates. But there is client-side certificates on them. So the bad. There's always the bad.
Poor Moose.
This image may be graphic for some users after I've exposed it to you. Shmook,
Don't
I
let Bruce or
searched
Heidi see.
Moose dead, and this is what came up.
Don't let Bruce.
First hit by the car and Google. So yeah, on Vendor Trogdor, there was a web interface that was accessible again only from the gateway. Now, it was an HTTP-based interface, and I spent 5 minutes guessing the password. Wow, that's the password. No, I'm not going to tell you it. No. We're not doing. I have to check. Hold on. No. Damn it! Now I just gave it away. No, but we were able to take and using just guess and check and kind of smart knowledge of if I was the guy writing this, what would I do? Oh yeah, there it is. I'm in. Yeah. Again, I'm not going to zero-day release it. And also, there's not much you can do in this web interface other than get the VPN credentials for the pre-shared key and the authentication for that device. And also, you can change some settings such as the network ID for the cell network. Every cell tower has a network ID, which basically says, hi, I'm vendor A, hi, I'm vendor B. So you can change that information. You can also change the gain of the tower, the handoff sequence from the femtocell to the rest of the network, etc. And yeah, also on the bottom of Vendor Trogdors was a HDMI interface, which was questionable. But after checking about all 19 pins, we noticed a bunch of 3.3 volt lines. Obviously, if you're a hardware guy, you're going to know that's a lot of most of the communication, especially serial on raw serial buses. Well, we found it. There's a raw serial interface on the HDMI interface of this, so you don't even have to open the device like I did with a screwdriver and a hammer. I know it's plastic, but yeah, I chiseled it. So we did see the raw serial interface. We saw the login, but we couldn't log in. These guys actually did some security on it, but don't get me wrong, we got physical. We could probably take a look at the memory. I'm not a uber hardware guy. I can't take and desolder the memory chip off of it, put it in something else, take a look and do memory analysis of it. That's not my gig. So this is kind of also, if someone else wants to take a look at it, come see me after having a beer or two and we'll chat. But yeah, so we did not get rid of this device, but we got a nice little pretty interface and took a look at the interface, couldn't get rid through that. But yeah, so I mean, that's what's going on with Vendor Trogdor in the bad. So yeah, Jackus now is going to talk about Vendor A's stuff.
So Vendor A again, good physical security, but not good network physical. I don't know, physical with tamper, but not so much on the connecting to serial. The U-boot loader, I could get right into and interrupt the process. We couldn't do that on Vendor VS. I don't file that. They did a little bit different, but anyways, on Vendor A, we were able to get into it, and of course, single user mode it. I know that's not LEET, and I know, oh, yay, single user, you got root. That's easy. What we were able to get out of that, though, was actually get the device back online with single user mode and have it actually talk back to the network like it should. We found a lot of fun files on there, made some LEDs blink. Overall, it was a lot of fun because we found a lot more information than we thought we could. It has all sorts of passwords and VPN keys that are just should not be there. The good news is, though, once it makes a VPN connection, it does kind of get the certificates it needs, so they're not on there by default, and it downloads them and deletes them almost immediately after making a connection. So it's kind of weird, but kind of good security on that. I think we have a demo next.
How long are we looking at time?
30 minutes. Yeah. What?
Who wants me to go the full, or us to go the full hour, or who wants to go full hour, or who wants to get beers? Full hour? God damn it, I want a beer.
2 hours. We'll do 2 hours. Whatever. Oop. Ah! Hey, don't throw at me. It's him. Watch the demo. Are we done?
Can we play Nice Children?
Okay.
Hold on a second. Let me.
Doesn't like you.
Who doesn't?
Doesn't like you by hitting all the balls.
Yeah, I know. So we're gonna do it from here because it's easier to full screen.
I think I can pause it. Yeah. So right there is, you bootloader. I'm about to interrupt it at 4 seconds. And I can set the environment to go to single. You can see the word single right after that. And had it copied. And then run boot flash. Or boot run. Yeah, boot flash. From there, starts the starts Linux kernel, blah, blah, blah. Way too many. All right, so right now I'm running another a script that it uses to finish the rest of the processes to get it back on the network. That takes a few seconds, and then it's back in. About 4 seconds, 5 seconds or so, you see I'm root and ID. Again, this was just a demo to show that we have root. Not showing many things on there because there's not too much to show right now. Still kind of work in progress, but root and ID. How do I do this thing? Oh, and then that does some other crazy stuff.
I'll explain it because he's tired.
I am tired.
Grandpa's old.
Wow.
I would expect it from him.
Yeah, those should be
Sheesh.
directed at me right now.
Okay, so I'll explain a little bit more. So what you're seeing there is basically after finding the serial pin headers on the board and determining through the Bus Pirate, which is an awesome, cool hardware hacking device, or just hardware in general if you're making little Arduino projects, which are so much fun. Basically what you're seeing is that the boot up sequence of it. We were able to find a raw serial that as the device powered on was spewing all the boot information on there. And by interrupting the bootloader process, kind of like Grub or F8 in Windows, keep tapping, keep tapping, keep tapping, you're able to take and get into the bootloader. And once you're in the bootloader, you can basically say, hey, I'm going to switch over to single user, and I'm logged in. Who asked that? Was that? I'm just wondering. Okay, cool. Good. Kosher. I think we'll do a live demo, maybe.
Is it going to work?
Screw it, I'll try. I hope I don't short out the board like I did last time. Oh yeah, so in this process of finding this, we want to recognize and have a moment of silence, since you're all so quiet as it is already. 2 devices that died as a result of our testing. I like to recognize vendor S's device. He died.
Yeah.
Trogdor. Well, Trogdor. One of the Trogdor devices. He died after taking 12 volts when he only expected 5. Please, please, please. This is a serious moment. Shh.
Whoa!
No live demo!
Let me make sure it's okay.
Rest in peace, moment of silence. Anyways, and then also...
This was the one that died.
Yeah. And then also our USB to serial adapter, the first one. This one was not my fault.
It's kind of your fault. You were in the way.
For the record, VDD does not equal transmit on a device, or receive on a device. And when you take VDD and shove it into a serial device at 5 volts, it smokes. It went out with a bang.
Receive did still work.
Yeah, it did. It did. It was just. I guess we should remember that he lost his leg, but can still kind of scoot around a little bit. Oh wow, that was wrong. I'm sorry. Yeah. All right.
Shmoo him.
All right, so we're gonna try to get this to work.
Right.
I make no guarantees or assumptions because I did not test at any way, shape, or form.